As a leader, you have to protect your business. You have to protect it from the wrong clients. You got to protect it from the wrong hires. You got to protect it from the wrong vendors. As a person, you have to protect your heart, your friendships, dating relationships, romantically. I have been single for over 8 years, and I've been on a lot of dates. And some have gone well, some haven't gone so well. I'm going to share with you today some things that I have learned in hiring people and in dating that are really red flags you want to look out for and take very seriously. And some that, there are some things in relationships that you want to overlook and give grace. But we're going to talk about the stuff you really want to be aware of, really pay attention to. And honestly, as I go through this content too, I struggle in these areas. Like there are some of these areas that are red flags. I'm like, I got to be aware of that in myself as well and correct it. And there's a difference between somebody who ignores character issues and those who embrace them and want to change them. And those are really big key factors to look for. So if you see these behaviors in yourself, address them. And if you see them in other people that work for you, clients, address them. If they don't change, you're going to have some problems down the road, especially if there's multiple issues. If you're married and you see them in your spouse, don't divorce them, but address them. Do some stuff about it. And it'll have a big impact if you do in the success of your romantic relationships, professional relationships, future romantic prospects. So I'm going to call this today 3 red flags that you should never ignore in relationships. Welcome to the Decide Your Legacy podcast. I am your host, Adam Gragg, and I am a coach and a family therapist. I founded Decide Your Legacy in 2012, and we help leaders and their teams face the core issues that they're avoiding so they can take productive action and make progress. And from my point of view, everybody is a leader. You have influence over your neighbors, your kids. And as I talk about these topics, it's going to give you some practical application. And I like to think that you can talk to your 6-year-old child and they're going to understand this content as well. Simple, practical concepts. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first of these red flags that you do not ever want to ignore in relationships is ownership. They don't take ownership. They blame everybody else except themselves. Do they take responsibility for their mistakes? People who never own their part in problems will eventually make you a major part of the problem as well. Yesterday, I was talking to my friend Ben, and I was feeling sad, partially because my daughter Emerson left to go back to school. I was just feeling sad about my life. And I told Ben, I said, I'm feeling sad. And he said something that was wise. He said, well, make sure you talk about it and you don't act out on it. Like, act out on it by blaming somebody else. And I was wanting to blame somebody else. I was wanting just to say, my life sucks and I want to blame everybody else for why it's not going the way I want it to. But just talking to Ben was helpful for me. It was me taking ownership of my feelings in that moment, like that I can be sad. It's okay to be sad. It makes sense when your daughter leaves that you're sad. So signs to watch for. They blame their ex-spouse. They blame their ex-boss. Every job failure is someone else's fault. Every relationship problem is someone else's fault. They justify bad behavior instead of reflecting on it, instead of looking at themselves and saying, yeah, I just acted out on my own sadness. I didn't actually own it. They get defensive when they're challenged. So you challenge them with something and they're initially always having an excuse. Like, it's because of this, it's because of that. This is one of the most predictive red flags because growth requires ownership. As you pointed, it's as I pointed out, there's legitimate hurts, there's legitimate challenges we have, but it's how we actually deal with it. So here's where you can identify if somebody is going to take ownership, because they say things quickly like, I could have done better. And they say things, even though it's really hard, they get curious and say, hey, tell me more. about what I could have done better and what I could have done differently. When someone receives feedback and they become very defensive, that's a problem. So they have an immediate explanation. They have a justification for bad behavior. They turn the issue back on you, which can happen very subtly, like you're mean for even asking the question. Wow. Like what's wrong with you for even actually being bothered by that? You must be insecure for even being bothered by that. You must be somebody who's controlling for even being bothered by that. And they can't take ownership of it. So it can be very subtle in how they do it but really watch out. So right now, currently, I'm in the process of hiring a new employee. And so I'm watching out for this kind of stuff. I'm watching out for this in the people that I'm hiring. I had somebody that I feel like was a really good candidate last week and had to cancel the interview last minute, but had a very good reason behind it. But their approach to addressing it, I felt, was very sincere. It was ownership. Like, I messed up. Like, no excuses. I messed up. So it was like, okay, I like this guy. I like this person even more now because they took ownership of it. Now, that is really a big deal. So you can identify, and I would say if you're going to work on this, though, look at yourself. Like, that's what I've been doing as I've been preparing for this podcast. How am I not taking ownership? So I was very careful, and I even thought about coming in here to the podcast studio today that there are times when I haven't taken ownership of even being late or not being prepared or not taking ownership of things with my team that I could have taken ownership of. And so it's reminded me of how I have to really tighten things up here as well. So the second, number 2, big red flag that you want to be aware of is words don't match actions. So their words don't match actions. So do they follow through? Do they say they're going to do something and they actually do it? Because people reveal themselves through patterns of behavior, not through promises, not through what they say they're going to do. Like, I have watched different patterns. There's been somebody that I've had an interest in dating-wise, and it's a newer relationship. So I've been watching behaviors. And there's something that, as I was looking at this podcast, there's a behavior that I felt like was 2 of them that have been inconsistent that I want to address. And one of them is when I ask about a certain topic, and the topic has to do with, in their life, making decisions about what they're going to do. So there's somebody who has big plans for their future, but if I ask about those plans, how they've made decisions related to those plans, they can ghost me on that topic. They can actually sidestep it and talk about something else, which to me has given me some pause. I had to even last week say, hey, did you see my last text on this topic? And then they actually addressed it. But this has been a pattern I've observed a number of different times. And that's what you want to watch for in your employees. It's what you want to watch for in people who are your clients. Do they consistently have selective memory that they don't address the stuff that's most important in their lives? That's a problem right there. And so, not to be that hard, but I had another situation with the same person over Christmas where I called them when I was in town, and I had reached out, and they didn't call me back for a long period of time. It was like 4 days. And I gave them a lot of grace because I thought, well, they probably have a lot going on. And personally, it's around the holidays and everything. But then I look back on it, I think, but they do call back in these situations, and they don't call back in these other situations. So when it's inconvenient, they don't call back as quickly. When it's convenient, they do call back. And now that's a pattern of behavior that I'm looking at and saying, is this a relationship character? Is this a character defect that this person has? And I have to actually address it and see how they respond to it. So those are things that you as a leader, as you're hiring new people, if you have clients, you're going to look for that kind of stuff and trust your gut on it because it can really save you a ton of energy. Guard your heart. I mean, I'm talking about a romantic situation, but guard your heart with your team. Guard your heart as you make decisions because it's going to cost you down the road. So what do you want to look for? Look for if their behavior is not aligning with their actions, are they frequently canceling or changing plans? Do they not return calls or do they not respond to messages? Do they have big intentions with little follow-through? Like they have these big goals, but talk is cheap. They're going to start this business. They're going to get this job. They're going to make this change in their life. They're going to sell this house. They're going to get new friends. They're going to make these big changes, yet you don't actually see their behavior aligning with it. Big problem, I would say. Address it. You got to address it. Do they have excuses instead of solutions? Consistent excuses rather than engaging solutions. That's a problem. You're going to identify patterns of responsiveness and reliability. And you're going to see these aren't just isolated events. Those are the things you want to look for. If it's a one-off type situation, hey, we all make mistakes, but we all are going to have problems in situations where we don't follow through. But is it a pattern that you're going to see? And this applies everywhere in your life. In dating, are they showing emotional instability? Are they in friendships? Are they unreliable support? In employees, do they have poor execution? In leadership, do they break trust? Okay, some simple rules to follow. If someone consistently does what they say, your trust is going to grow. If they consistently don't, your trust is going to die, and eventually you're going to have to move on. But really look out for it, because it's going to be something that's going to require hard conversations. And that's why this whole do their words match their actions? Well, are they avoiding? I mean, this is a way to know that you have a good, healthy relationship because they embrace hard conversations. Many people appear kind and easygoing, but they avoid necessary conflict. So watch out when you address things with them. Do they consistently change the subject? Do they delay difficult discussions? Do they say everything's fine when it clearly actually isn't? Do they have passive-aggressive behavior? Look out for that, big time. Are they passive-aggressive? Because that's only going to magnify and get worse and worse over time. If they're passive-aggressive when you're just getting to know them, let's say they're a contractor and they're not following through, and they're passive-aggressive, like distancing when they don't like how you've responded, well, that's a big problem. I would say really consider running from that if that's the way they're reacting. At that point in the game, if they're a new contractor. Healthy relationships require emotional courage. So if you found this podcast helpful, I got a real challenge for you. You want to go ahead and engage Shatterproof Yourself LITE, because it's going to show you how you can increase your confidence and your boldness. It's a brief mini course that you're going to actually engage and go through a worksheet. There's great content there. There's actually some videos and some journaling prompts. I mean, but you're going to love this, man, because it's 7 small steps on being bolder in your life. So you're standing up for yourself. You're standing up to people who are taking advantage of you. You're standing up to the stuff in the junk that's not going to move the needle and move you to where you want to actually go. So hit the link, check out and purchase Shatterproof Yourself LITE. So number 3, all right, here's a big one. This is going to sound harsh, okay? But it's a big red flag. If you're going to hire somebody, if you're going to engage in somebody in a relationship romantically, if they cannot maintain healthy relationships in their life. So do they have long-term healthy relationships? If they're a vendor, do they have other people they're servicing and they've maintained a relationship for a long period of time? Do they have friends in their lives? Or do they seem to jump from relationship to relationship? You know, in dating, I have for some reason been attracted to avoidant people. I told somebody recently, you know, the same gal that I told you that I'm kind of checking out and seeing if they're reliable. I said I'm attracted to people who tend to have drama in their lives. I'm attracted to people who tend to be unreliable. And I think it's the chase, and I think it's also the safety in the relationship. And I don't want that because I know it causes me tons of stress long term. But I want reliable people. And yet, why am I not always pursuing reliable people? That's a challenge. And I have to really be able to search my soul there. So do they have long-term healthy relationships? One of the most important and underrated signals. People who cannot sustain friendships often struggle with conflict, with accountability, with loyalty, with emotional maturity. They're not loyal. You don't want a relationship with someone romantically who is not loyal. Gives you some pause. It really does. You know, I mean, I've dated people before. I've gone on first dates when they tell me that they've actually revealed that some real character things about themselves, about, you know, making excuses for why they left their marriage. Okay. Making excuses for why they've actually engaged in relationships before their marriage was done. I mean, those are real things to be careful of. Making excuses as to why they were not loyal to their employer. and sabotaged. I mean, that's something I've heard of subtly in interviews, because I've gotten pretty good at this interview process, of lacking loyalty to their previous employer. Are they speaking negatively about the previous employer? I mean, those are real things you want to pick up on. And it's going to show you why they don't have long-term relationships as well. So you want to look at this, watch for no long-term friendships. Do they avoid, if you're in a dating relationship, a meeting and introducing you to their friends? Like, I will tell you, like, on a very first date with somebody, I would love for them to meet my friends. I'd love for them to meet Ben and Brent and Dave and Troy. I mean, anybody. Like, why not, dude? I mean, why not? Like, call them up, FaceTime, whatever. Meet your friends. I mean, because that really shows some character stuff there. Like, you're not ashamed of these people who hold you accountable, who make you better. And you're not ashamed of what you're doing in that dating relationship to reveal it to your friends as well. You don't have anything to hide. So watch out for that. Everyone eventually will show their true colors. And so watch for that. If they're only shallow and only situational in their relationships, they only have friends who are deal friends, business friends, and not real friends that they've had for a long period of time. Not a good thing. I'm not saying that they can't make new friends right now, but think of it like hiring. If someone can't keep a healthy friendship, how are they going to be someone you're going to trust with a job over a long period of time? When it gets hard, they're going to potentially run. And mental toughness means that it's hard emotionally and you're still sticking with it. I didn't want to come and do this podcast today. For one, it's like really freaking cold outside. I mean, like, the real feel is like 5 degrees maybe outside. It's really cold. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was really cold. And I also haven't been totally an emotional ball of energy right now, just dealing with some stuff in myself. So, but the fact that I'm doing it and I started tells me that I can show up for myself and other people and get it done. You want to look for that in other people. Will they make excuses or will they show up and get it done? So watch for, if you want to check for whether or not they're a person who has good, healthy relationships, constant phone checking. Are they? And I'll tell you what, like, I'm being a little bit harsh, but as I think about this relationship and this potential relationship right now, I will say there's some really good character signs as well, because they know how to stay engaged in a conversation, which is really cool. And they know how to be open emotionally and share their own weaknesses, which is really cool. And they know how to actually ask and engage in, show consideration for me, which is really cool. So there's a lot more positives than negatives. I'm just sharing some things that give me some sense of pause that you want to be aware of. Because like I said before, I struggle with all these things as well. And I'm trying to get my picker, like, working this out so that I can pick the right relationships. And I think in this case, it may be a very good one. I'm not trying to criticize this relationship. I'm just saying I'm trying to be aware of some things that in the past I haven't always been aware of. So are they somebody that has FOMO? Be aware of that. Like, they're always afraid of missing out. And they're always afraid of their image being preserved or not being preserved. Not great. So a simple test across business relationships, friendships, dating relationships, it often boils down to 3 questions. Do they take ownership? Do they follow through? And do they sustain healthy relationships? If someone scores poorly on all 3 and consistently doesn't want to change once you address it, because and kind of sitting back here, I have a lot of stuff to address in this new relationship to figure things out there. I really do have some things to address, because I need to figure out, it's been kind of a fun relationship, but we haven't gotten deep enough. So I don't really know. Maybe it's my future wife. I don't know. It could be, but I do know I have to have more courageous conversations, and that's on me in many ways. Just like it is in interviews sometimes, it's on me. Some of the failures I've had in hiring people is on me for not asking the hard conversations and not trusting myself enough to ask the hard conversations, being afraid they're going to run, which I don't want to do that now. I want to just be straight, get it all out there. Can they do the job? If they can, they're going to be a great fit. Do they fit the culture? If they can, if they can't, I don't want to have them on the team, because it's not going to be a place where they're going to be happy as well. So one coaching insight that you might appreciate here is, given these 3 frameworks, these 3 things to question and look for, think about how you can actually ask those types of questions in your leadership of people you've already hired. And how can you get at their character, at the ownership that they're willing to take and the follow-through they're willing to actually engage? That shows their integrity. And how can you actually get at their emotional maturity? Because if you're not asking the hard questions, you're not even going to pick up on how mature they are. If they get defensive, yet you're not actually putting yourself in situations where they could get defensive because you as a leader aren't confronting them on poor behavior, well, that's really on you. Because those three traits drive about 80% of relational success. So what you do want to look for, those green flags, do they take ownership quickly and say things like, that's on me, I handled it poorly, I should have communicated better? That's a very good sign. Do they actually follow through on the small stuff? So they're proactive in their communication. They show up when they say they will. They respond and follow through with timelines. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to projects. And they're not wearing you out emotionally because you don't know where they actually are on the project. They're not giving updates. Those are problems long term, right there. And number 3, are they actively growing? That's going to show you that they're probably going to grow in their relationships as well. Are they getting coaching? Are they reading? Are they following through? You want relationships in your life that are ELF relationships. They're easy, lucrative, and fun. You want to really be careful of those hard relationships. They're half relationships. It stands for hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. I got that from Joe Polish. Really cool. I didn't create those things. So what insight have you gained today? And what actions are you going to commit to taking? 20% of change and transformation is insight. You got that today. 80% is action. If you're going to change, you're going to take some kind of an action. We are in the business of long-term change, not short-term quick fixes. To decide means that you're eliminating other options. You're saying, I'm going to zone in on that right now. You're going to decide to pursue somebody, pursue an employee, pursue a relationship, pursue a project. Now, your legacy, the definition of legacy is the impact your life has on other people. There's no positive change until you decide to change. Your legacy depends on it. I'm going to go ahead and close the way I always do. Make it your mission to live the life today that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, nobody else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.